Today's been an interesting day, man. We had a power outage at the studio, which obviously we were planning on recording at, and I'm kind of glad that it happened because we probably should have thought to do this at the beginning and turn the gym into a studio. But I feel like this is kind of one of those things where it just turned out for the best.
Yeah, I mean, I rented this space like 9 months ago and barely started using it, so it's nice to have use. But I was also super excited. I haven't been to your space.
Oh, yeah.
To see what you've done, and that's something I really want to do. I know you have a style and these things, and like it's all very intentional, and I have an empty.
Yeah.
And even at my home, like I have a choice of like what it's going to look like now. And like, I'm just frozen. I won't go move the things. I'm like, oh, but I can't. I'm like, actually I can, but like, I want to have a fountain in the back I bought cause I wanted it out here for ambiance, but like, I just haven't even put it out. So like, I think maybe here and doing this, watching it later, seeing it and be like, oh man, I need to put my style back in here. It's what the gym's always missed because I've been in this fight or flight thing since the fire of like, I had it how I wanted. It was amazing. All of our history was on the walls. It had an ambiance you just couldn't really recreate. And then everything's just like, well, this is just temporary. This is just temporary, And like I signed another 5-year lease here. In my brain, I want to go build a state-of-the-art gym, and like then I'll have it nice. But I want to wait 5 more years,
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I'm excited to use the space.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we when I called you this morning and talked about getting all this thing set up, I stole a question from Brady that he's asked me twice now podcasting, and the first time that we ever went to podcast with him, it was before we had released any episodes. We were trying to bank like 5 of them to get a little bit of a head start, and we went over to Sheridan, and him and I weren't super close at the time. Like we were close through, the gym and being friends with Drew and stuff, but we hadn't really spent a ton of time together. And I was a bit nervous, honestly, for the podcast because I look up to so much of like the things that he says and like just what he puts out into the world. And we're like 2 minutes from recording the podcast, and he looks at me and goes, "What are we doing this for?" And I was like, bro, the entire studio set up, everything's rolling there. And I like, at first it was kind of jarring. Cause I'm like, wait, does he not want to do this? Like, is he questioning doing this? But what he was actually asking was like, okay, obviously we're taking the time to have this conversation. We're taking the time to do something. So what are we aiming to put out into the world here? And it was one of the first times that I had ever been asked that question, and it stopped me in my tracks.
Yeah, it's profound. Brady's really good at doing that.
Yeah, and he hit me with, I was ready for it the second time that we recorded. But I asked you that question this morning, what are we doing this for? And yeah, I'm curious to hear kind of like what was on your heart at that time.
Yeah, I mean, I think what comes back to me is the words like moving forward, and for myself personally, I'm moving forward from a change in my life. And then also like, the people I mentor, like that's my goal is to help them move forward, like peel back the layers, become the next thing and all that stuff. So I think helping people move forward, not be stuck where they were or who they were, their circumstances they came from, like you can start anywhere and end up wherever you want. Like it's a choice, you just have to, sometimes you need a little kick in the butt to realize like you can move forward. Nothing was given to me. I'm not special. I just showed up. I'm passionate about my job and what I do. So that's why it seems like it's easy for me or whatever, because it is in a way.
It's a trained muscle at this point, I'd imagine.
There's trials and tribulations, but end of the day, I don't go to a job. I have to try and like pay for things I don't really want. I get to go literally live my passion every day and share it with people. And I think because that's true, I can get deep into many other layers and just use that as the mechanism through which I mentor and teach.
Yeah.
Because I can get some pretty profound moments with people when they think they're going to die, and I'm like, you're not going to die. Like, look, there's space, there's somewhere to move forward, like you just have to look for it. Even if it feels like there isn't, there always is. Yeah,
absolutely. So when you got to thinking about this moving forward concept, we talked a little bit before we jumped on just about how that seems like it's been a theme throughout your life. What are maybe some of the first moments where you think that was like a defining characteristic of your life where you had to start adapting that as a mentality?
I mean, I'd say, really young. And I probably didn't conceptualize that as like what I was doing, but it was really just more my circumstances or whatever growing up, and I was always very loved and all that stuff, but, it was a broken home or whatever. Dad left when I was 1, had a single mom, worked her ass off, 2-3 jobs all the time. And in her free time, she didn't always come home. She went and, had her own fun, and she probably needed to do that to be there for us in any way she could. I don't blame her for it. I actually thank her for it, because it gave me this unreal amount of independence, and like how I move forward is because it doesn't dawn on me that you could just quit or stop or whine or complain.
Yeah.
Because nobody was ever there to save me. No one was ever there to do the thing for me. I just did it, and I think that's why now I'm a good leader and stuff, because it doesn't even cross my mind like that you should quit or stop,
Yeah.
And so when people come to me with their issues or their problems, or whether they're jujitsu or life related, and it's easier on the outside, looking in,
always.
But I can always find a way, and I don't view negative things that happen as like, oh man, I look at it as a pivotal moment, as an opportunity, to like, I don't think I'm in control of anything really.
Right.
And that's like something that's given me great peace in the last few years, to where I've let go of that, of trying to like, no, if I just did more, if I loved more, if I cared more, everything would be okay. But end of the day, it's not that at all. It's just really all you have is like the things that happen. Somebody cuts you off in traffic, and, your heart rate goes up, and you have a choice there. Do I make my day about this stranger that's maybe he's having a baby and he's rushing to the hospital? Maybe he just got fired and he's pissed off. Maybe he's got to go to the bathroom really bad. You know what I mean? So like, instead, I just changed the narrative to like compassion. And I can think that this person, there's something happening in their life right now that they aren't in control, and it had nothing to do with me, And so I think whether it's that or something way bigger, there's always a silver lining, and like whatever is guiding us, if we quit fighting it, you blow your knee out like, oh man, I can't train, my life's over. Like, no, you're supposed to sit and watch from the outside for a while. You're supposed to slow down so maybe you don't get hit by a bus today. If your knee wasn't broken, maybe your life ends.
Be out there jogging.
Somebody saved you today. Somebody didn't take something from you. It's just an opportunity to pivot and do the things you wouldn't do if you felt amazing, or, you could perform. And I've had to adapt that into my life, through my injuries, and life circumstances and stuff like that. And it gives me great peace. Just, always like, it's new, it's exciting, instead of like, man, I can't do exactly what I want to do.
For sure. Yeah. When you were in those moments where you started feeling like, okay, this is on me, like there's nobody here to save me. There's people here to love me, but in the gaps, I got to take care of myself. What did that start looking like at that point? Cause I'd imagine that with that independence, you kind of start making your own way.
Yeah. I mean, like even financially when I was young, like I think I remember doing it in like first grade for the first time, but you used to be able to get a little postcard out of a magazine and tape a penny to it and send it in, and they'd send you like 10 cassette tapes.
Okay.
And I was like, well, this is great. I've got 8 of these things and I have 8 pennies. So I sent them all in, and they all sent me tapes back. And then I would go to school and sell the tapes, to all the little kids for, I don't remember, $1, $5, whatever they had, traded them their lunch. I don't know. But that was like my first like hustle and attempt to like take care of myself, to get the things other kids had that I didn't know how I could get or whatever.
Right.
And then I remember like trading up then, like, oh, someone has a knife, so like I trade up for a knife and their marbles, and And I still kind of do the bartering system now. It's like ingrained in me as like a really good way. It's not only just that you get other things, but like you form a sense of community that way, you know, and like we always have an excess of things we don't necessarily care for and a want for something we don't have. It's just human nature. You know, so
say that again. That's so good.
I don't think I can.
We have an excess of things that we don't need and a desire for the things that we don't have.
Yeah. Yeah. Once you have it, you know, a lot of times the value of it goes down because it's been attained, you know, and that's just like the human condition of, if I only had that, I would be happy. And then you hit it and it's like the thing doesn't make you happy. You know what I mean? Your headspace does, you know, a moment does. But yeah, happiness is, not something that material things can give you, but we strive for it all of the time.
Very true.
But yeah, so for me, I think it was, you know, at least financially, it was that way. And then, you know, emotionally and like wanting for things like, you know, dinner with a family and like these things that, you know, like I would ride my bike up to where my mom worked and like sit and have lunch with her, like while she worked, and I'd sit at the counter and we'd have those moments, and they were great. I love them. Like I still seek out small cafes and like, you know, places that have that vibe because it like hits home with me.
Yeah. Shout out to the Red Rooster in Billings, baby.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. That's my spot. But no, so then I would like, you know, make friends with people that had that, you know, that their families owned a business and they had dinner together every night, and I'd find a way to be invited over, you know, and then I did get to experience that, you know, and they shared me and Z like relate a lot like that. You know, we both kind of, people took care of us in our community that didn't have to, you know, and I got at least a glimpse here and there, but even then, like that taught me a lot too, because, you know, the perfect family, got the mom and dad, nice house, money, everyone's got a nice car. And then, but you realize like there's still a bunch of shit going on. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I don't know, not only did it like give me that sense of belonging and like get to see how maybe other people live, it also made me realize that like, no matter what your situation is, there's struggles, there's things you got to deal with, you know? So for me, it helped me like be more appreciative of what I did have and realize like, even if I had all of that, then it would just be some other problem, you know, some other thing where I felt I was neglected or didn't have enough.
Yeah. I think that there's two ways that you can go in that situation. Like you can either see at that time that everybody's got struggle, even everything that society tells me is going to make me happy, having dinner with the family, having a cool car, like whatever that picture is. When you see behind the curtain, it's like, oh, but even that has its own problems. I think that could make somebody go one of two ways. They could either say, fuck it, I'm not going to chase any of this stuff. And if everybody's miserable anyways, then I might as well not do anything. Or you can take it as motivation and say, oh, this is one of the most liberating things ever, because if there's always struggle, then I can go and chase whatever I want to chase and just try to optimize for the good parts of it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you can be happy wherever you find yourself, you know?
Right. So did those moments, kind of sampling and getting invited to like different families, different friend groups and all of that, did that start to shape what you wanted in life at that point?
I mean, to a point. So there was like good families that did invite me in, made me feel you know, like I belonged and stuff. But like something I go back to all the time now, and I've had all these years to reflect on and like question my motivations for like how I run the gym and how I'm building the affiliates and all of that. The one overwhelming thing that I really feel deeply is that I moved, you know, from Lockwood out to Warden when I was in first grade. I mean, I was really young, you know, and for me, I don't remember a ton before that, you know, so I feel like I was always there. But as I like came up in that community, no matter what I did, like the majority of the people like, yeah, but you're not from here. Like, you know, and they never really fully, for whatever reason, because you know, my socioeconomic status, whatever it was, like I never was fully accepted. Like you can do stuff with us, but like you're not one of these kids, you know? Yeah. And I'm really trying hard to not use that word. I dislike the fact that somebody that strives to be part of something that wants inclusion because they're different for something, you know, like out of their control, whatever it is, where they live, what they look like, where they came from, all of those things. So one of the major things here at the gym and in the Grindhouse community is that I don't care where you came from. I actually prefer that it's diverse and it's different than everybody else, because it adds in another layer of acceptance, another layer of like things that we can be educated on, whether it's heritage or background or whatever. Everybody brings something different, and we fight and we're successful and we win, and like that's fun, you know, but that has nothing to do honestly with the goal of what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to build a community.
Yeah.
You know, where everybody's included, because that was something I felt like I never was, you know.
That's so interesting, man, because it's at that time and like growing up in that place, there's no way to know that that's what's being formed in you and that's what's being shaped, that, you know, decades later is something that, you know, you can look back on it now and say, oh, so much of what I learned then and so much of how I grew up got me to this place where this is what I'm trying to build. And as a member of this community, that's one of the coolest things about being here is like, man, I went through like one of the hardest things I've ever gone through around this time last year. And the fact that like the thing that I could do, like it was one of like three things. I was like, I'm going to start going to therapy. Well, really one of two things. It was like, I'm going to start going to therapy and I'm going to take a fight. Because I knew that if I took a fight, then I would be around you more. I'd be around Drew more. I'd be around my buddies who like really are most of my social circle. And if you didn't build this thing, that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So I think that there's, just like you said, yes, we come in here and we fight each other and we do all of that kind of thing. But it's crazy to think that you moving out to a place in first grade, like all of the domino effects and all of the butterfly effect that happens to like somebody else goes through something, you know, 20 years later. And it's like, okay, well, I know exactly what's going to be part of this program.
Yeah.
You know, I had one of the things that came up for me while I was in therapy this year is a very similar sense, like you're saying about the acceptance thing. And I don't all the way know where it came from, but I'm curious how you would relate to this. Like I felt in a lot of ways, and kind of I'm still working on getting better about this, but I feel like a lot of times I find myself at a table, if you will, of people that I really admire. But I almost always feel like a guest at that table. Like I look around and I'm like, oh, all of these people belong here, but I'm like I'm the plus one, or I'm the guest here. Yeah. And I'm curious if you had any version of that from how you grew up and kind of like how you came up.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely felt like that a lot. Like I think everybody has the imposter syndrome or whatever. Like, yeah, I'm here, but it's just because like they like me. It's not because I'm really one of them. Like, and that's just one of those things. It's self-imposed. It's not anybody else. Like they don't view you like that, or you wouldn't be at that table. You know what I mean? And it's, I think, just layers of belief and lots of experience will show you that a lot of times when you're around somebody that you look up to, I've been able to form and mentor and help people I look up to grow quite a bit.
Yeah.
You know, and it's the people, like I've endlessly looked for a leader in my life and a mentor, and like, especially in jiu-jitsu and MMA. And other than like Matt Powers, he coached me in the finals, the Grapplers Quest Worlds, just by chance, because he was there with his people. And then because of that, he, you know, coached me in my pro debut, and I'm forever grateful for that. But everyone else that's ever, you know, helped me or, you know, mentored me, I'm like, okay, like you just watched us and my team and me perform, you know, for a day or a week or whatever it is. How am I doing? You're doing great. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm like, son of a bitch, you know? Like that's all the feedback I've really ever gotten, other than like Bernardo, but he kind of did the same thing. He's like, you built something I couldn't improve. That's why I wanted you to be an affiliate. I was interested in what you did. And so just layers of people like that, like, okay, I must be one of these guys, because none of them have anything to like, you know, any gems to give me or anything, you know, because, and it's what I do is intentional, but I also don't try and control the outcome of it, you know, so I'm not like dictating it. I'm just I'm going with it because it's what I feel is right, you know? Yeah, I probably got off your question a little bit.
Well, I want to stay on this. For a long time, I felt like I didn't have a mentor either, or maybe I didn't have a role model. I think that I had mentors in some different places, but it always felt like that was a thing that that was missing for me. So I'm curious if not having a mentor, not having somebody to be like, hey, here are the next steps, or I've been in your situation, here's what to do next to build your thing. Is there something that's maybe lonely or like confusing about that?
Yeah, for sure. And I think the mechanisms I've done, and I do have great people I look up to and respect, and they're rooting for me and they give me their advice the best they can, but I'm in a unique position and a role to where these people that I do look up to, the guys that have all the money and the businesses, and I'm like, oh, I want to be one of them. They're also here getting the parts they don't have from me. So it's always, you know, it's that much harder to like have them just be that one role for me, because, and even some of my closest friends, like, you know, Drew's a great example. Like there's this constant battle with me of, I want to just be his friend and his homie and like do the things, but I'm also have a responsibility. Like he's not done being mentored by me, you know? So like there's always that kind of balance that goes on. But what I will say, and what I've learned to do, and one more value of like the gym and the community and all of the people, even the way I do belt tests, like it's peer reviewed. It's not a dictatorship. You know, most gyms, people in my position, like do it like me or get out.
Yeah.
And like, that's my biggest fear. I don't want everyone to be like me, because then we have one mindset, we have one direction, you know? So what I've done, instead of being mentored by somebody I put on a pedestal and I look up to and like, oh, they said it, I have to do it. I have all of these, you know, I don't want to get religious, but disciples or whatever around me, all these people that genuinely care about what we're doing. They feel it, they understand it. And when I go ask 20 different people, you know, hey, this is happening, this is my circumstance, this is my situation, what do you think? You know? And when I get all of that feedback, you know, a lot of times it's very similar, you know. So I've just learned to trust in the community as my mentor, you know, because it's so much bigger than me. It's bigger than all of them. They're going to come and go, you know. I mean, I kind of can't because I'm the leader, you know. But so I think for me, that's the value of this too. Like if I don't have all these different types of people that think different, and I tend to, not that I don't value everybody, but as far as feedback and stuff like that, the people that challenge me the most, that are the most difficult, that don't think like me, are the ones I value the most, because they give me the feedback that I don't conceptualize myself. And I think that's what a lot of people, especially in business and management and leadership, they surround themselves with agreeable people to reinforce. I think everyone does that, you know, reinforce how they already feel, you know. And like Montana's like that, the poverty mindset of the comfort and the space we have here, where there's plenty for everybody, so nobody tries to do shit, you know. But yeah, so I think that's how I found the thing I've been looking for. And had I found it, I probably would never include everybody in my processes the way that I do. So once again, instead of getting what I want, I got something a million times better. It's so much more widespread and diverse than a singular person that I put in this position, because end of the day, he's human too, or she's human too. And they probably have a bit of an agenda. And when you spread it out over 20, 30, 40, 50 people, the agenda goes away, and the overall good, you know, of like what should actually be done to move forward. Yeah. That comes through.
For sure. Hey guys, just a brief pause in the show to ask one quick favor. A lot of you guys who listen, even the day ones who listen every week, have yet to rate this show on their favorite platform. And so that's the one thing that I'm going to ask you guys. It really helps us grow the show. It helps us get awesome guests on the show. And if you could give us a 5-star rating on your favorite platform that you're listening on right now, it would probably take 10 seconds, but it would mean the world to me. And it'll really help us continue to make an awesome show for you guys. So if you don't mind, that's the only ask. We're not running any ads right now. We're not asking anything of you guys. We just want to be putting out a great show. So if you could go do that, that'd be awesome. And until then, let's get back to the show. One of the things that I get curious about with having all of those different inputs and those data points is it kind of ties back to what you were saying earlier about just going with the flow and trusting that things are happening for you in some way. Because I feel like I've been in a similar position where I tend to crowdsource my advice from a bunch of different places, but that also puts a bit of pressure onto you to be like, okay, now how am I going to distill all of this? Then I'm the one that's going to make a decision. I think that the people who have a really strong mentor or they have, faith in certain things, they're able to just go to that one thing and say, okay, well, this is what I'm going to do. So how do you go from, or maybe have you developed this mindset of trusting that the right thing is going to happen when you're the one that kind of has to take all of that information and then like actually decide what to take action on?
Yeah, I'm really big on energy, not emotional feelings, but like intuition. Anybody that's told anybody about how to be successful, they all mention intuition. And that's something like right now in my life, I always prided myself. It kept me safe. I did crazy, dangerous shit my whole life, put myself in bad circumstances to a point, but then like anytime my intuition spiked, I just trusted it wholeheartedly, and people call it guardian angel, whatever it is. For me, like there's this internal voice, there's this thing that it's probably us, our soul, our essence, whatever it is. And we tell it to shut up all the time because it's uncomfortable in social situations. It's not what everyone else does. And that's where you lose your individuality. Yeah. And you start doing all these things that don't feel good to you, that don't feed you for the greater good of making people around you that aren't inside your body, like making them comfortable. So, yeah, I mean, from personal relationships I've been in and stuff, I was told, my feelings, my intuition and the things I sensed were wrong for so long. And I cared so much, for the person that was saying that to me, that maybe I do have a big ego. Maybe I am the problem, maybe I shouldn't trust this little voice. Maybe it is leading me down the wrong way. But the further I went down that path, the less and less I trusted myself, believed in myself, had a sense of peace or calm ever, Yeah. And that's something now, I'm bringing back, and it's weird, even though I know I'm doing it and I want to trust my intuition, I still am second guessing myself a little bit. And I'm sure it's just part of the healing process or whatever, and regaining that trust with myself. But yeah, so I would say after I get all the information from everybody and I go through it, there's an overwhelming sense of right and wrong or whatever that comes through my intuition. And a lot of times I'm even are you sure? It would be really easy to do this comfortable path that all these people recommended, but if you seek comfort, you start to die. You know what I mean? And then you can see the end and the excitement's there, which kills your motivation, and that's the battle I think people fight too, is they seek comfort and they if I could just get there, and the destination, and the trick to all of it is it's the way, the journey there
for sure
is the important part, and the trials and tribulations that, of doing something that scares you to death. That's the zest of life. You know what I mean? And that's what you should be listening to. That's what you should be chasing. Don't do what everyone else did, or you can already see the result. There's nothing new that's going to come out of that. There's no growth there.
Yep.
There's reproduction, and for me, yeah. So I take on everybody's energy and feelings about things. And then I go inside and I know how I feel and I go that way.
Yeah. What did it take to start developing that intuition or start really leaning on that? Because hearing some of the stories that you told me up until this point, I feel like there were times where it either really put you in a good spot or it really saved you from a bad one. And I'm curious what you've done to at the best that intuition has ever been and the most in tune that it's ever been. What did it take to get to that point?
I think just not being influenced by others, you know, because that's, I think, where everybody loses themselves in their direction, and like why they end up living a life that they didn't necessarily choose is because, once again, it's seeking comfort. It's, you know, I talked about community, but community can also hold you way back. Parents can hold you way back. People that care about you don't want you to get hurt or take a chance because they don't want you to get hurt, you know? And I think that's something I remember when it really happened for me. And I was always really independent, like I talked about earlier, and I did all of these things, but I was still probably like 26. It started to like hit my head, and 27, I acted on it for the first time. But I was always living the life that somebody outside of me told me was the right thing to do. Like, if you want to have a good life, this is what it looks like. This is what I did, you know, and you get all these constructs put in your head of people you respect, things you've seen. You're like, okay, I want that. A lot of my mentorship young was I was around a bunch of drunk assholes at, you know, bars and stuff growing up. That's kind of where I grew up, was in, you know, hanging out in those places. And I watched these men and everyone, oh, he's great, da-da-da. I'm like, it doesn't look like it from here, you know, and I would see their destructive nature and how they made people feel and the way they handled things. And so I learned a lot about how not to do things from people, you know, and I think that's because I had that. And then I had good examples like Laris Roberts, my wrestling coach. Like, he saw something in me. He knew I was a little different and a little special or whatever, but he never really told me that. But I felt it like through the years. I'm like, why is this guy always looking out for me? Why does this guy care? No one else cares, you know? So I kind of had that as a guide too. But even some of the stuff he recommended, you know, he played it very safe, you know, his whole life. So I think that's where you get outside of trusting yourself and things, is because expectations are you know, they kill all great things, you know, and they're out of good places. You know, like I said, parents don't want you to get hurt. Friends don't want you to take risks that backfire on you. They'd rather keep you close and keep you safe, you know, but then, like I said, you end up living somebody else's life, someone else's construct of it. And it's sad, you know, and then you don't trust yourself because you made these decisions and got yourself there.
Yeah.
You know, and so you just really, I think, like, people don't, a technique that worked for me when I was going through the shedding everything that's been put in my head by everyone in society or whatever, when I was 27, like, I spent hundreds of hours that year because I isolated myself. I took 6 months of that year. I went to college and didn't talk to anybody. I went to practice and talked as little as I had to and left. And then I went and lifted weights and didn't talk to anyone. I went to my house and I rested and I took care of my body and I ate good food and I studied film. And like, my goal was with that, it was the Grapplers Quest World Championships was my goal. I wanted to be a world champion. So I took 6 months. I didn't go to dinner with my family. I didn't go play cards. I didn't go on a date. I didn't do anything. And in that time of isolation and dedication to a future goal, that's why I know it's not the goal. Because I did the thing, but like all of the things like that 6 months leading up to it is what like benefits me now.
Right.
And I have a shiny medal in a box somewhere, you know, from like the actual goal being achieved. But yeah, looking in the mirror, like, go home today and talk to yourself about something that you're struggling with, and you will lie to yourself. And you'll lie to yourself over and over to a point you're like, dude, it's just me and you, you know, actually it's just me,
Yeah,
you know,
right.
but yeah. And then, so when I got to a point when I could look in the mirror and say what I really felt without, cause it's, you know, well, but if I do that and I feel that way, it's going to hurt my mom. It's going to hurt this person's feelings. It's going to affect these people. And that's great to be considerate. If you're doing things to be vengeful and spiteful and hurtful, it's a problem. If you're doing something because your life force needs it and it's intuitively your desire, you don't have to explain it to anybody. And if you don't do it, you're going to be a shell of the person that you can provide for them anyways. There's always going to be a little angst. There's always going to be a little bit of resentment and all of that. So you can't really be there even for your kids or anyone you care about. If you're not true to yourself, if you're not taken care of, if you're not honest with yourself, you can't actually be good for anybody else. I mean, parts can, but not wholly.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think that's where a lot of people, I do this for you. And then they resent that person because they don't do this other thing their heart desires, their intuition screams at them, you know? So I think that's where people, it's easy to go take care of other people's things. It's easy to solve their problems. And all you're really doing is distracting yourself from looking inside and dealing with your own shit or feeding your own passion, you know? And I think there's a comfort in it. People like being mad. It's an instant dopamine rush. It's instant feedback. It feels good. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But then all that is, you know, eventually you're just angry, you know? And that's where people, they don't want to hurt someone's feelings. And then they basically live with the result of that every day and become angry themselves.
For sure. I think that makes a ton of impact on me because I think that what's rooted in that is that you're trying to show up for other people. And it's I think it's a version of cope that gets disguised really well because you get praised for, man, you're such a good friend, or you're such a good leader, you're such a good partner, you're such a good blah, 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 because you run away from your own things by showing up for other people. And I think that it's different than something like addiction or like abuse, where outwardly people can see that there is something very wrong and there's something that needs to be fixed. But when you're showing up for everybody else and the way that you're running from your own shit is by helping everyone, the world gives you great feedback for that.
Yeah.
You know, and I think what becomes an issue with that is like, just like a lot of addiction, it's a very like slow burn. Like you kind of need a little bit more and you need to help a little bit more people and make a little bit more impact. And all the while you're still shoving your stuff down more and more and more. So I think what ends up happening is you, by nature of showing up for everybody else and not showing up for yourself, you end up creating this thing where like down the line that works for a long time, but then down the line, you can't show up for anybody. Yeah. And when you can't show up for anybody else and that doesn't give you your thing anymore because you're so far away from who you're trying to be, how's anybody in your life going to show up for you? Because you haven't been you. They don't know who you are. They don't know how to show up for you. And I think that it's one of the things that's the most wrong about being a people pleaser is if you're willing to like not show up for yourself, if you're willing to make sacrifices of like what you actually need and who you are to please other people. I think that at some point, like you said, you're not even a version of yourself at some point that can continue giving to them anyways. Yep. So it's terrible for them and it's terrible for you. And you're kind of doing both people a disservice.
Absolutely.
It's really tricky. When you were talking about being in a position where essentially you were living a life where other people had a lot of influence on it. And it was like, well, everybody told me this was the thing. What did that look like for you? What were the pieces, or like what life situations did you end up in that you looked around one day and you're like, oh fuck, this might not be me?
Yeah. So I was very fortunate. Like when I got out of the service, I went to Wisconsin for a little while, moved back. My mom and her boyfriend had just like bought a bar, and I went out to Washington to get a really good job with my dad at Hanford Nuclear Site and did all the training and realized like any day someone could like puncture a bag and I would die of cancer 5 minutes later. So I bailed on that and went to the bar. I think, sorry, I kind of just lost my train of thought because it went in a million different directions.
Yeah,
what would you rephrase it or just say that again?
I was asking about like when you looked up one day and realized you were living a life that everybody else had told you would be awesome. Like how did you get to that point?
Now I remember. So like the bar, so we went through a situation. My mom and her boyfriend broke up. So I find myself at like 25 years old, owning property in the Boulder Valley with a successful business, nature out my backyard, tons of people that want to come, you know, and like in my brain when I'm overseas, all I ever wanted to do is like be in the Beartooth Mountains and own a property and like have a successful business. And I found myself there, but it ended up being, you know, like my business was to party with everybody, and I lived a very unhealthy lifestyle. It was a blast. I'm thankful for it because it showed me, I got to do it and realize it's not the way,
For sure.
And me giving up all of that, my goal was to come to Billings, Montana, or wherever it led me. I didn't want to leave Montana again, but I wanted to be a fighter. And I've known that, honestly, since I was a little kid. I want to be a ninja. Then I wanted to be Jean-Claude Van Damme, and like in the back of my head, I always wanted that. And I don't know if it's the allure. I don't know if it's because I was scared and I didn't want to be. So I wanted to be one of those guys, so when I had some money from leaving there, and I had all these choices. I had tons of money to go to college with, from the military. So I should have went and, got a master's degree and picked a good field and went and got a good job. Or I should have went and worked with my dad and made, crazy amount of money. I could have retired by the time I was 35, very comfortably from that place. So instead of doing those things, I went to a place where I ended up working for 5 years for no pay, pretty much full time, training fighters and going to fight and sacrificing my body and doing something, and everybody's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be the best in the world. I'm going to, the gym wasn't something that was in my mind at that time, because I was just going to be the best fighter and become rich that way and take this path. But everybody even, and my mom's the best example, because I'm her baby and she cares, she'd watch my fights through her fingers, and I'd come up, I'm like, what'd you think, Ma? Minute 20 seconds, that was good, right? She's like, are you done yet? Have you proven enough to all these people? And I'm like, I don't care about all these people. This isn't for them. This is this feeds my soul. I'm living a movie in my head right now of something I've dreamt about my whole life, and it's worth more than money. I've had money. I've had the things I've wanted. And it didn't feed my soul. It was comfortable, and I could sit there and calculate the rest of my life and what it looked like. And it scared me, and it made me sad. And I wanted something I couldn't control. I really almost sought that out. And I think going to do that against all the social norms, the industry didn't exist. There wasn't money in it for a long time. I mean, close to 10 years before there was actually I can eat because I train 12 hours a day and I fight humans constantly. You know what I mean? So it goes against everything and everyone that's ever told me how to be successful and what to do. And I didn't listen to him anyways, but I was like, yeah, you're right. Well, okay, I'll just do this while I go to college. And when college is over, I'll go do something real.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then, so I think that was a lot of it, what spurred it to, to make those changes at 27 and start thinking for myself. And I didn't want to go live somebody else's life. I didn't want to be safe and secure. I already had that. It made me feel sad. It made me feel like I could calculate my life and my death and basically how it went. So I've always been a bit of a thrill seeker or whatever, and the allure of being a fighter, now, it's not everybody, but everyone gets credit for being a fighter if they show up to 4 practices, get in a cage fight, take a picture. But there's a huge difference, in my opinion, between a fighter and someone that did a few matches. Mm-hmm. It's a completely different human, you know? And I don't know. I remember meeting, I went to go corner my first pro fight with Zach Unruh in Butte. And this guy walks in the back. We're back by the locker rooms, and he comes in. He's got this shirt, chicks dig cauliflower ear. And I'm like, what's cauliflower ear? I didn't even dawn on me what it was. I was so new to the industry, and this dude just gnarled up, crooked nose, scar, and everybody that came within 50 feet of that man, stopped and pointed and came up and took a picture. And I'm like, I want that, not the attention. when the way people looked at him and the respect they gave him, and he, like, I love Olshinsky, man. He's one of the nicest, most down to earth, like, could care less. Like, he was like the first pick on like Ultimate Fighter 1 by Dana White. Damn. And he like refused to go because Dana wouldn't let him like basically smoke weed, you know, because that was like his thing that he was passionate about and stuff like that. But yeah, and there was just something like, and I think part of it has to do with the childhood of walking in, you know, and I won big things in wrestling and regional and national level stuff, you know, and nobody cared. I still never got celebrated. I was still just like that. Yeah, good job. But like the kid from here also did it, and like he's going to get the credit or whatever. So I wanted, when I walked into a room, I wanted people not necessarily to fear me, but to respect me. You know? And this is something like a little off, but it's probably jiggled around in there and had something to do with it. You know, I didn't spend very much time with my dad growing up. Like, he drank heavily and was kind of mean, like bar fought all the time, had a lot of women and wives and things in his life. And after he quit drinking in 89, I started spending time with him, but he still liked to go into the bar. He wouldn't drink, you know, he'd get a Coke or whatever and go play the Keno machine. Mm-hmm. And when we walked in there, like, everybody got up, paid respect, you know, like shook his hand, said hi, bought me a soda, like, and everyone like clamored to do it. And I remember going down and sitting next to Dad, and I'm like, Dad, how do you have so many friends? And he looked at me as like, son, those aren't my friends. They're scared to death of me. That's why they treat me this way. They've seen what I can do, you know, in a bar fight or whatever. And yeah, they're not my friends, son. They're scared of me. I was like, I want that, you know, or whatever. And, you know, and I was pretty young. I was probably like 11 or 12 at that time, just based on like when I was hanging out with him. But that, something about that, watching him walk into a room and seeing way bigger and probably stronger men and more successful men and all of this, like, paid their respects, you know. And I think that's always been something, I don't know why. And it's probably just because I didn't get the respect, or, you know, no matter what I did, I couldn't earn it. So now when I walk into a room, I have that. I have a presence about me. I have a confidence that you can't buy, you can't fake. I can't go in and like, hey, everybody notice me, you know, because it's real, it's genuine, it's earned, you know. And I do have I'm all about energy. I believe it so much. I feel it from other people. I try and actually lower mine as much as I can because it's overwhelming for some people. Apparently, you know, I've the feedback I've gotten or whatever. And that's something I'm also working on now where I am in my life, is I'm not going to tone it down to make somebody that's not comfortable with me comfortable anymore. Because I just did that in my relationship. I did that in my life, you know, so everyone would feel more comfortable. But that's doing same thing. I'm not being true to myself. I'm doing them a disservice. I'm doing me a disservice. I'm trying to be something I'm not. And I'm tired of, once again, not being authentically me, you know. So if people can't handle it, they can leave the room, in my opinion, moving forward. You know what I mean? And
absolutely. That's
something, because that's just it. You figure it out and shit happens and you regress and you go backwards and you reevaluate. And I'm in a huge state of reevaluation, and I'm not going to apologize for who I am anymore. And if it's too much for you, I'm sorry. Like, grow or get out of my way. I don't care anymore, you know, and it's not to hurt anybody or anything else. It's to be true to myself.
There's a thing that I said to a friend at one point, kind of on accident, and she was going through a relationship thing. And, she was talking about how for a handful of months, her and her dude were just kind of like walking on eggshells around each other. And each of them kind of had a couple things that were bothering them and the whole thing. And she was like, we finally talked yesterday and both of us got everything off of our chest, and we are in such a better place right now. Like, all of the things that we thought were going to be these big issues or these big fights or whatever, as soon as we actually got them out in the open air and talked about them, everything was better. I told her, I was like, I think that honesty is a recalibration back to reality, because you guys both took a chance at that moment that if I say the things that are truly on my heart that are bothering me or the things that I need from somebody and that doesn't fit with them, I can lose them. Yeah. And so it's, you know, maybe beneficial to me if I'm scared of losing them to just like, oh, I'll just temper my own expectations. I'll just temper my own needs and wants, hoping that it'll keep them around. But the issue with that is if they're not going to meet those things, they're not supposed to be in your life anymore.
Exactly.
And so by saying that, what it gives that other person the opportunity to do is if they're supposed to be in your life, it gives them the opportunity to show up for you in a way that is great for you. And now you're both winning. And if they're not supposed to be around anymore, it's going to fucking hurt, but it's going to hurt a lot. It's going to, the pain at that point is acute. It happens right now. It's really difficult in the moment, but it doesn't happen in the super long tail thing where you've got that pain just titrated day after day after day after day. And it gets stronger towards the end. I think that the net amount of pain that we experience when we don't just handle it all at once is so much higher than the amount when we just concentrate it into one moment and say, this is either going to be something really good that comes from this, or we're both going to learn that this isn't supposed to be happening anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, communication is really important because that's where expectations, you know, the unsaid things that you would think people should do for you and they're not met and you don't communicate them, then it's just an expectation. It kills all great things. But yeah, I mean, communication is something people aren't good at because they don't want to make somebody uncomfortable. They'd rather just appease them and take it on. And like, I can handle it, you know, and I'm really guilty of that because I'm super solid. I'm very grounded. I can take so much shit and it affects me, but it doesn't like cripple me to like not carry on with my mission or whatever.
Yeah.
But at the same time, these last few years, it was really when, you know, like I had to have Mikey leave the gym. It crushed me. I love that kid. You know, I spent every day from 12 to 21 with him, like pretty much all day, 12 hours a day, you know, but same thing. He had expectations of me that weren't real and couldn't be met. You know what I mean? But he had me on this thing to where I was supposed to solve everything for him and like hand him everything and do these things because he did the work and he deserved it, you know?
Yeah.
But he didn't communicate any of these things. He let them build up to a point where it was broken. You know what I mean? And I never had an opportunity to work it through with him. You know, I had a lot of the answers and wanted to share them, but there wasn't an opening for him. He was very closed off, you know, and stuff like that. But so that's something right away when I see a trend with somebody in the gym or something they're not supposed to be doing or out in their life and it's affecting, you know, the overall vibe of the herd, so to speak, the community, you know, I get right on it and I communicate clearly because I had a thing where I had a saying even like I let people fail around me all of the time because it creates teachable moments for me to come in and be like, you see how you feel right now? It's because of this. Like I've said this to you 9 times real quietly. And this is why I was saying it because I could see this coming. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's something like it did work. It was effective, but it was so long-term and so misunderstood by people that didn't understand that I was thinking of them the whole time. You know, they felt abandoned a lot of times. And then they felt like attacked when I finally like pointed it out when it happened. So for me, I've learned to communicate a lot better with people and I do it early, even if it's uncomfortable. Because same thing, it's not, you can spare feelings and suffer, or you can communicate and get on the same page and grow together.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? But you can't do both. So I think, communication and letting go of expectations of people. Or if you have expectations, communicate them very clearly and not once 3 years ago and they're supposed to remember, like, you know, reintegrate them into the conversation so they can be reminded.
Yeah.
You know?
I think moms give some of the best advice ever. And mine always hits me with, it's not fair to judge somebody on something that they don't know that they're being measured on.
Yeah.
And it applies in so many areas in life. But I think that honesty thing also comes back to kind of where we started with that, where being honest with ourselves is also super important. And what you were saying about looking at yourself in the mirror and being willing to have a conversation, being willing to be like, what the fuck are we lying to ourselves about? Like, where is this coming from? It's interesting, man, because knowing you being in a situation where all of the things when you're in the military that you're thinking about, like, I want to have a successful business. I want to have a community that respects me. I want to have a place that is beautiful to live at. For you to have all of those things and then look at yourself and be like, yeah, but the honest truth is, even though I have all of these things set up, I think I'm supposed to be a fighter. And the truth about that is there's no money in it for a long time. There's no pathway that's been paved yet because there wasn't superstars then. And I'm going to have to go against the better judgment of everybody who's around me and be like, nah, dude, just trust me. And that's something for myself that I had a conversation with Brady a handful of weeks ago, right before we put out our podcast. And he gave me a version of that I really needed. So having a lot of honest conversations with myself has been helpful, but it's been a bit tricky, because I think that when we want to have a conversation with somebody else, it's like, hey, you're not treating me the way I want to be treated, or you're not like showing up for me and having whatever those hard conversations are. You kind of have the other person's responsibility at that point is to respond. When you have that conversation with yourself, you have to do both hard things.
Yeah.
You have to start the conversation and you have to be the one to respond to it. And what I didn't realize is that having a situation where it's like everybody around you is telling you that what you built is pretty cool and that you did the right thing and that you did all this shit, but having something like the podcast, for example, where it's like, have made $0 on it up to this point. There's not a super clear route to, getting monetized and having this be the thing. And everybody around me is like, yeah, bro, but like you have this thing that's working. Why don't you just do that? It's like, I have so much respect for fighters and musicians and artists who go through that. You said 10 years of, I had it all already, realized that wasn't the thing. And now, after being honest with myself, not only once in that one moment, but every time I thought about, oh, fuck, what if I just go get a job at this nuclear plant? Fuck, what if I just go back to the bar? I'm so curious because I'm in a place right now that feels very pivotal as far as like and I'm about to turn 27 too, about like what all of that stuff might look like. So I'm curious, like how in those years after you've had everything that people told you that you wanted, how do you go through those 10 years of like not getting paid and the people asking you if you're doing the right thing? Like what keeps you going in those moments?
It was, the GI Bill helped a lot. That's why I went to college for so many different things or whatever. So it bought me some time, but I think it was like, I don't know, like I think all of us to some extent have a pioneering spirit in us, obviously we came to America, like all the things, and traveled across and came over here and fought wolves and grizzly bears to like settle in our great state. And there is something about like, I'm very artistic. I love creating things, Mm-hmm. Like if there's an industry where the book's been written, you know how to be successful, here's the steps, here's the certificates, here's the job, and this is what you get at the end of it. Same thing. Like I can already see the whole thing. If I'm writing a book of my life, I could write most of it now, and it would wiggle a little bit in the middle, but I can see the end. And I think like that's what the allure of it for me was, the unknown. How big can it be? How far can I get? And I think just what drove me through it more than anything was the passion of it. Like I didn't know what fighting was about when I wanted to be a fighter. I didn't have a clue. Mm-hmm. I remember for the first like several years, like, no, I'm a fighter, not a martial artist. I'm not putting on pajamas. I'm not doing all this stupid shit. I'm not going to bow to people. Like, I'm not going to do any of that. I didn't see the value in it. Now, I think I talked about fighters earlier. There are fighters also that are above the people that just like dabble in it to get the picture. And then there's martial artists. And I think now that's what I like resonate with the most, is being an artist.
Mm-hmm.
Happens to be a martial artist. When I was young, I used to win, art shows for, drawing and painting and stuff. So I've always been artistic, and I've given that up, and I found a new art form where, I love this analogy, but like the canvas fights back.
Right.
And I still paint a pretty picture, against its will, so to speak, which is jujitsu. It's an art, and it's an expression. But yeah, I think that's part of the mission or whatever. It's the passion of what I'm doing. I'm not done. I haven't made my masterpiece yet. Made a lot of nice pieces of work or whatever, along the way. But I have this overwhelming thing I can't even really put my finger on. I was actually just speaking of this last night. Like, I'm destined for something, like, and it's not fame, it's not monetary, but I just feel this overwhelming thing, like I'm supposed to keep doing this, and that there's some bigger thing that's going to come. I don't even know if it's in martial arts or anything, you know what I mean? But like most people that come to me for martial arts, like they get what they need out of it to go get the confidence and the grit and the resilience to go do what they really want to do. You know what I mean? And it's not, fighting's fleeting. That's not going to be your whole life. You know what I mean? But the things that you gain from it, doing the hard things, showing up at a thing where you fail, 70% of the time, but you still keep coming back, that's kind of what success really looks like for people. Some people get lucky and they just slide in and it happens for them, but I don't think and then they probably have no value in themselves or anything they created because they didn't go through it. But I think I think I like hard things. I think I like a challenge. And then, just the passion of it. And it keeps growing and changing and morphing and becoming more, but in those early years when I wasn't making any money, it was me chasing the allure of being the guy, like, man, why do you do that? I'm like, 'cause you won't. And that sets me above you. And it makes me go to bed on time. It makes me eat clean. It makes me take care of myself. It makes me educate myself. Someone told me one time, like, you can do anything in 5 years if you study it, 2 hours a day for 5 years, 7 days a week, you can become the foremost expert in it. And I, kind of took that on with jiu-jitsu and fighting and all of that stuff. And I've applied it to a lot of other things. And I think I'm addicted to the growth that it brought out in me, and just there's an unspoken thing when you do something like this that, like, other people, they won't do something if they have a hard day at work, like they'll quit, so I think it's that allure of doing something that nobody else will do that is hard, and the gratification that comes from that. Like, you get respect and you get outside stuff, but for me, it feeds my soul, knowing I could easily pivot and take an easier path.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that's seeking comfort, and that's seeking complacency, and that's preparing to die.
For sure.
And that's something I don't want to do until it happens. You know what I mean? So,
yeah. I asked a similar question to Chris Williamson a couple of weeks ago when I met him. And when we were talking about role models earlier, he's probably honestly the first one that I've ever come across who's done exactly what I want to do. Like, he's built one of the biggest podcasts in the world. He writes, and his, like, the entire thing that he gives to the world is what I'm trying to give to the world as well. So being able to meet him was very cool. But I asked him, I was like, dude, in the first, 150 episodes, when no money's coming in, no sponsorships, you're just in it, hoping that it works out someday because you've got this calling. It's like, how do you keep going at that in those moments? How do you, very similar to the question I asked you. And he said almost the same thing. He was like, dude, focus on the moments where you get to wake up and the feeling that you have is like, fuck yeah, man, at 2:30 today, I get to talk to this person about this thing. And he's like, that is what's going to keep you going. And everything else that's complex with everything else, that'll work itself out. But if you can keep that love for what you're doing and that love of the game, like that's the fuel that's going to get you through. And it sounds like that's kind of where you're at with just the art of jiu-jitsu and the art of figuring out like, how do I be a fighter? How do I live this lifestyle? It seems like that's motivating almost in and of itself.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like, cause motivation, it's fleeting. It comes and goes. But passion, it'll drive you through anything, you know? And like I said, like I've changed what my goals are through it a lot as I've grown and seen, like learned myself, like what the value of what I do really is. But yeah, I would tell anybody you can go to work and get a paycheck and live a good life and have all of the things, and the Joneses are jealous of you and all of that. Mm-hmm. But if it's not feeding your soul, you're slowly dying. You know what I mean? And at some point there's going to be a break in that, or the break's already happening and you're living it and you make peace with it and you wait for it to be over, you know? And that's like same thing, like focusing on the destination. Well, I want to retire someday. What if you know, that's your only goal and you forget to live your life that whole time in between? And that's where I think people that play it safe, do all the right things, have all the investments, have, you know, go to work 40 hours, get the award for showing up every day, never missing a day for a kid's softball game or whatever. You missed it, man. You messed up. You did it. Everything that someone told you should do, and you missed it. You missed life, you know? And I think the goal, for some people is to retire so they can do what they want someday. But how sad is that to work 40, 50 years of your life and then you don't have the time, energy, you know, to go do the things that you really wanted to do and you missed it? That's got to be, I mean, the saddest feeling in the world. Like, oh, I'm on a cruise, but I don't want to, you know, I sat in a desk for 50 years and I can't even go scuba diving. I can't do any of the things. So we don't know how much time we have. We really don't, you know? So why are you going to put all of your stock in some future thing that eventually, if I suffer through this for all of these years, there's going to be this payoff at the end, you know? It's the same thing as focusing on or only caring about the goal at the end, whether it's winning a medal, a title belt, you know, hitting economic status that you want, you know, like if that's the only goal when you get there, happiness is not waiting with that number. It's not waiting with that medal. It will for a moment, you know, like, hey, I hit a goal. And then you have to reevaluate and set another one and start striving for it, you know, or reflect and realize like that goal was not worth it. And I passed up years of my life to achieve something that means nothing to me. And that's a fear of mine, I guess, you know. Being present is the greatest gift I can give anybody, you know, and like that's something through mentoring and teaching and jiu-jitsu, I can take them out of their life and their thoughts because they have to be present when you're fighting another human at a high level, you know, and you have to be present. I think that's like why jiu-jitsu especially, I mean, striking does it too, but it's a little different, for me at least. But I don't think while I'm there. I'm just present. You know, some people go sit and meditate and like hit these states, you know, and, you know, or they go somewhere else or whatever. For me, when I'm locked in battle or whatever, it's active meditation for me. It's, how'd you do that? Like, do what? Like, I'm complete, you know, I'm in a Zen state. I'm there, I'm present, I'm doing exactly what I want to be doing, and all of the worries, the troubles, the stress, all of that, it goes away, you know, and I think that's why this is so therapeutic for so many people. You don't have to bring your shit in here, and if you do, and that's all you're thinking about, you're going to miss the boat, you're going to get choked, you're going to get arm barred, you're going to, you know, have a bad day. So, and I think just that, whether it's this or, you know, people find it lots of ways in CrossFit and things where they go middle of their day and they escape.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So this is just another way to do that. But yeah.
That's one of it's like a little tripwire in my brain every time I hear it, but it's this concept that I actually learned from playing sports is forced presence. And it's one of the things that I realized as I was coming to the end of my football career was I wasn't particularly heartbroken about being done playing football when college was coming to an end. But before it even ended, what I started to get worried about was I was like, man, there is 2 hours at least that are part of every single day where I just get to be doing this thing. I get to be in a flow state, and it doesn't matter what's going on with my relationships, my friendships, or my family, or my homework, or anything like that. And I'd chew people's ass if they asked me about homework during practice. I'm like, bro, we only get this time. Like, hit me after. But that was one of like the main reasons that I knew before I even ended that I wanted to start training afterwards, because I was like, I need something that's going to give me that forced presence where I have to be in this moment right now, because I'm going to get my face choked off or somebody's going to break my arm. Like, I think to me, it's so important, because maybe it is a bit of an escape, but it's a bit of like meditation and reset that has been so helpful for me, because a lot of the things that feel like issues and feel like the weight of the world coming into the door feel quite a bit lighter and a lot clearer on my way out the door when I'm training. Yeah, man, I'm curious. So I think that a lot of people, especially in our culture, have heard the dangers of dying the slow death. They've heard the danger of getting the 9 to 5 or the good job, or like the thing that people tell them is how they should live their life. And I think what's hard to take about that advice sometimes is that people have bills, they get a family, they get their parents, that there are people who don't support them. They are haters. Like, it's a hard thing when you take in all of the different variables to listen to that advice, because it's way more comfortable to pick the job that you don't like, but pays you well, because the comfort that comes with that is you can probably afford a pretty good car, probably afford a pretty good house, maybe provide for the person you love and the kids and blah, blah, blah. And the sacrifice that you're making is just like that thing. It's that love. So I'm curious, like, how does somebody get out of their own way, or how does somebody even start to approach that conversation with themselves if they're kind of headed down that road already?
Yeah. I mean, obviously you gotta eat, you gotta pay the bills, you gotta do those things. I think a few things like preemptively before you find yourself there is you could seek out other individuals, that you do pair up with that are willing to go through it, maybe live a little bit, lesser lifestyle, go without a few things for this expectation of like building something you're passionate about, so like that's one way. But most people are so unself-aware, they find themselves like, well, shit, here I am, like they don't do it they're not knowingly signing up every day for this. There's no intention behind it. Like they're just bouncing off the walls, and this is where I ended up. And now I have these, everyone made choices to get there. Yeah. You know what I mean? But then they find themselves in too deep to where their choices are taken away, and now they have to provide. Now they have to buckle down and give up the thing. You know what I mean? That unfortunately probably makes them valuable to the person they're doing it for. I see that here all the time. Like, well, hey, I got a new girlfriend, so I can't train anymore. I'm like, you're not going to be the best version of yourself. She's, like, this is going to snowball. This isn't good. Like, you should continue to do the things that you were doing that attracted this person to you, so you can still be there in a full way, But yeah, it's easy to just like, no, I'm going to go all in. This is the thing. And when you put all your eggs in one basket, like, and you're not getting fed anymore and, getting a chance to revitalize it, it goes down a bad path anyways. Like, you can't be there for them authentically because you gave up the thing that made you authentic. Right. But yeah, so once again, it probably goes back to communication and faith and trust in whatever relationship you're in. Like, I don't know how this is going to go. I might fail miserably and put us in a horrible spot, or I can take the safe route. I can guarantee that we'll have the things, but I'm going to slowly die, and you're not going to like me in 5 years. I won't like me in 5 years, So it's like, what do you want? Do you want comforts of things? Do you want, like a guarantee to where you can write your whole book today? Or do you want to like take an adventure and have ups and downs? Like, everyone wants even. Not everybody, but the majority of people want even. And or they just want the high.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that'd be ideal.
Right.
But even that, if you just have the high, maybe you're the most blessed person on earth. Everything you try succeeds and you have there. But once you get there, you either can't appreciate it because you've never seen the lows and you've never had to really struggle. So it's just like, yeah, this is just normal. Like, I don't see the big deal. You can't even appreciate it. You know what I mean? So I seek balance in my life. I don't seek comfort. I don't seek the homeostasis. It used to be my goal, like the military minded in me. Like if you do all of the things, everything's calculated, everything's planned, you know exactly when it's going to happen. There's no surprises, you think. But life surprises you no matter how much you got your shit together, how much you prepare. You don't know what's happening 2 seconds from now. You think you do, but you don't. You know, so I think I'd find somebody that's, you know, or you're with them, communicate with them and be like, there's going to be really, really high highs and there's going to be really low lows. And sometimes we'll be in this place where we're like, everything's okay. And I'll probably freak out and do something more extreme because I am not comfortable being comfortable, you know? And I think for me, I go back to the phrase, the zest of life. You know what I mean? Like that unknowing is the zest of life. Like people have problems with, I'll just relate it to jiu-jitsu and stuff, like competing. Oh, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm like, I know, isn't that exciting?
Right.
You know, but they're like, the only way that it can work out for them is if they win everything and they get the gold medal. It has nothing to do with it. There's so many lessons in getting second place or losing 4 matches in a row. If you really want to grow, you know, what you want to do is you want to stay right here to where like people already respect me. They think I'm tough. If I go prove I'm not, where does that leave me? You know what I mean? But what it does is it gives you things to work on. It gives you feedback. It makes you be honest with yourself. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then you just, if you're somebody that's going to strive, you're going to reevaluate, you're going to make changes, you're going to grow, and then you're going to go try again. And I think that's where, you know, you're talking about relationships and getting stuck and doing the right thing, getting a steady job. Yeah, that's easy. You could never go to a tournament and just train and go home and tell everyone, like, roll with who you know you can beat. Yeah. Keep this false sense of security. You know what I mean? But the thing is, you know what you're doing in the back of your head. And when you're sitting there bragging, you're telling your stories, you know, and it goes on for 10 years, pretty soon you're like, look in the mirror because you hit this point in your life where you have to, and you know you're lying to yourself. You know you just wasted all of that time. You know you did it falsely, and that's just it. Like, you're going to be laying on your deathbed or having these moments in your life where you have regrets because you weren't true to yourself. You lied to everyone and they believed it, and it was great. You got good feedback, but you fucking know. And end of the day, that's all that really matters, you know, and that's a lot of what drives me too, or has me encourage other people. I'm like, yeah, you can go sell solar panels in Texas and like lose the girl you just like, this is Clay, you know, or you could like do what you're really passionate about and stay right here and make sure nobody steals her from you, you know. And that's a conversation I had with him. But it was scary for him. He's like, but if I do this, I know what I'm going to have, you know. And I'm glad he chose the other, and it didn't even lead him to that. It's leading him to tons of other things, you know. Yeah. We always think if we make a choice, like, I have to live with this forever. That choice might get you somewhere to put you somewhere you really are supposed to be. You know what I mean? So it's not even like this thing that I don't know if I could ever get there and I could ever succeed and I could ever make a living at it. You're probably, you know, you could get there and it's not what you do, but it introduces you to the person. Yeah. You know, it might not even be in the industry, but they walked into your place and you had a conversation and something came up and now, boom, now your life's going that way. That's why, you know, like if I back to the getting cut off in traffic and stuff, like I always assume too, for me, if there is this grand plan or everything's orchestrated, that person was put in my way to slow me down. So I walked into the next space at the right time to have, you know, if you miss somebody by a split second, you don't have that connection. You miss the conversation, you know, you miss the moment. Yeah. So if I got there on time when I wanted to be there and no one got in my way, I would get there too soon. I'd walk by and that moment just passed me, you know? So like, I just assume whatever it is, it was put in my way. So I would get everywhere I'm supposed to be, even if I don't understand it for 20 years. Like, that's why that happened.
That's one of those things that's so easy in hindsight to be like, holy shit. Like, and you'll laugh with the people about it. What a coincidence that, you don't usually work at the gym that night and I don't usually lift in the evenings. And when I walked in, you were vacuuming right there. And like, that's why we talked to each other for the first time.
Yep.
Crazy. But it's so funny to me that it's looking back on those moments. It's so easy to be like, holy shit, if I would have been on time, I would have been the one in that intersection that got hit. But the fact that somebody held me up and I was upset that I was running late and whatever, it seems like one of the things that's easy to practice in hindsight, but hard to practice in real time. Yeah. And I'm curious, like, especially when shit's going hard, or when shit's really hard, because that's one of the things, like I had this picture in my mind that when things are in the windshield and you're driving your car, it looks scary and shitty. And like when the bad times are there, you've got a full view of it. But as soon as you drive past it and you're looking at that thing in the rear view, it's got this golden hue to it where you're like, man, I'm so glad I'm at where I'm at now. And it would not have been possible if we didn't have to go through all that crazy shit.
Yeah.
But when you're in the middle of it, I think it's been hard for me at times because I know so often that I'm going to get better from hard times that happen. But when those hard times come around, it's so much harder to be grateful and to believe that there's a plan. I'm just like, man, what the fuck? Why this one? So how have you gotten to a place in your life where you can operate and know that in real time instead of just in the rear view?
Yeah, it's having presence of mind. It's the same thing, living in the moment. And then, it's really easy to have something happen and just have a gut reaction to it. And that's where like martial arts, it gives you tons of self-control. You know what I mean? So I think that's helped me a lot to, instead of and I have the feelings like everybody else, someone does something, I want to do it. And then as I feel that or whatever, I'm like, is this what I want my day to be? And I have this, it happens now in microseconds, it's not this big thing and it has to happen fairly quickly, but it's a learn process. It's a practice process. You know what I mean? And there's days where someone cuts me off. I'm like, fuck you, motherfucker. Yeah. I'm just human too. But the bulk of the time, or if I do that now, a lot of times I'll laugh to myself and then I'll have those thoughts like, oh, he probably has to go to the bathroom really bad. Yeah. Probably is rushing to get his kid from school because they're sick, I'm having a good day. They're having a bad day. I don't need to have their bad day with them. You know what I mean? But I think it is practiced. It's being present. It's caring about your energy and your inner feelings and not letting just random strangers that have nothing to do with your life affect your day, Because like I said, that feels good in the moment, but then pretty soon it's addictive. And that's all you ever do. And you lose your path, you lose your way. You don't remember why you're happy that day. You remember, you walk in your next place and you see your friend, how's it going? It was all right. This motherfucker just cut me off in traffic, and that's what you're passing on the feeling that guy gave to you. And it becomes this domino effect of you're not on your mission anymore. You're not spreading anything good. You're passing it off. And it's this gross infection that happens. And people are so unaware of it. So, yeah. So, and same thing, when I show up, a lot of the places I do, it's to see people that know who I am and what I do. And my role with them is different to where I can't do that. Yeah. So I think honestly, that's a benefit to me because I have to be aware of that. I can't just feel my feelers and go be reckless throughout my day because it's going to have a residual effect of maybe years of mentorship and respect that I've gained with somebody. I'm going to throw away in a moment because a stranger upset me, right. And it doesn't lead a good example. I think too, having kids with, or whatever, when they're in the car, that shit still happens, and they don't do what you say, they do what you do. So, that sits really heavy with me too. Just being a good example for them.
You got your kids in the back, motherfucker.
Yeah. And it's funny, and God bless, Britt and stuff too, but she likes to drive and doesn't like waiting for the people to get in her way, or whatever. And it's fine. It's her thing. And I think it's hilarious, but the song "Move, Bitch, Get Out the Way." Yeah. Like my kids sometimes when someone's in front of me and I'm like, oh, we're going to be a few minutes late. They'll just come out and like sing that song. And I think it's hilarious, So like even something where maybe it's like a bad reaction in the moment or whatever, it turns into an endearing thing that's absolutely hilarious.
For sure.
You can laugh about it. And then that in itself makes the moment lighten up or whatever, there's nothing cuter than a 6-year-old saying a song like that, having an adult reaction.
Ripping Ludacris.
Yeah. But yeah, I think just being self-aware and like just really being careful about what you're passing off to others as you go about your day. Mm-hmm. Is it your energy? Is it your mission? Is it your goal? Or is it, something that, a bird pooped on me and now I'm letting a bird dictate my life and what I put out in the world to everybody else,
Right. One of the things that I get curious about is I have the benefit of having a lot of my pivotal moments in life have been like influenced by you and the gym since I've been a part of this community. But I think being around you, I have the benefit of like knowing already, just even before this conversation, the way that you carry yourself. And we've had lots of deep talks where I can get a sense of like the intuition that you've built and the gut feel and the way, like even the spirituality that you live your life with and stuff. And it's very impressive to me. I think it's especially impressive though, because I think one of the things that people in leadership positions don't get a credit for is that a lot of times they've had to develop that at the same time that people have been looking at them to be an example. And the reality of the situation is like, we're all human. And I think that, coaches and bosses and leaders and mentors, they don't always get that extended that same grace of you're allowed to fuck up too. You're like, yes, you have all of this, this knowledge and this wisdom to impart and this intuition, all these good things. But a lot of times the way that we get those things is by fucking up.
Yeah.
So it'd be insane to think that like, oh, just because they're in this position that, I revere very highly, they're not allowed to, like, I'm glad that they fucked up all these ways before so they could get to this point to help me, but you're not allowed to fuck up anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious from you, like how as you're developing this sense of life that you are right now, how do you do that and still be in a position where you've been coaching forever and you've been helping people on their mission forever? Like, what's it like to carry those two things at the same time?
Well, I think when I do fail, like in front of people or around people, I use it as a teachable moment. I relate with them, I don't try and cover it up and pretend it didn't happen. Instead, same thing. I'm just human. I'm just like you. I'm going through life. This is new to me, and I'm going to figure out probably one of the better ways to handle it. Mm-hmm. But, right now, I'm just reacting like everyone else would, and then I'll go reflect. And when this opportunity comes up again, I'll probably have a little bit different reaction than I did the first time. You know what I mean? The other thing with this is like most people aren't going to notice that you mess up because they're there getting something for themselves. They're not checking on you. You know what I mean? To see if you even fail, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times mentorship and leadership and all of that is a one-way street. And because of the position they put you in, even if you made a huge mistake in the advice you gave or the reaction you had in a hard moment, they still think that that's what it should be. They don't necessarily question you. They don't know that you failed. You do, And if they call me on it, of course, I'd be like, yes, like I messed that up 100%.
Yeah.
Maybe you should ask someone else about that or whatever. But the reality of it is I think that, and that's the danger of like having a leader and a mentor and trusting somebody, because you're going to probably blindly most of the time without questioning it. And I said earlier, that's why I value the people that do question me, that do how did you come to that? Like, why is that the right answer? You know what I mean? But those people are so rare. And those are the people that are going to become leaders and mentors and do the things they want in their life, you know? Mm-hmm. So for that, I guess they're already going to relate to you and not judge you for it as harshly because they have the same attributes that you do. They have that, they think further beyond the feedback and stuff like that. So, and those are the guys that, you know, I pull in closer and hold on tighter to and pour more into, because this is going to get so big at some point. I'm going to need 20 people that do what I do for people. You know what I mean? It can't always, I've never wanted it to be about me. And I've always known, you know, like, that's why my black belts, when I bow in, nowhere else do they stand up front with you. They stand in line and they bow to, you know, and I always have them next to me. And that's my whole goal is I want to have 50 people, you know, I don't even want to put a number on. I want to have as many people as I can that have gone through the processes I have, that have the experiences that I have, that have grown and showing up for a decade or more and like did the hard things to be able to stand there, you know, and that's how you make the world a better place. That's how you have a lasting influence, because I'm going to be gone in a moment at some point in time, you know, and if it was just me and I'm the only one that could ever do it, everything I built and everything I care about and everything I preach about is just gone in the moment. So, you know, if anything, like when I fail being a mentor, I'll probably find another person that can take my place if they do notice it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. It's, there's a quote that I really like that says, you would spend less time worrying what everyone else thought about you if you realized how little they did in the first place.
Yeah.
Fuck, man. That one gets me so often because, the reality is like, I'm actively learning in public all the time. Like the nature that this is my thing that I'm trying to build. I'm doing it in front of people on the internet, and you had to do it in front of people who are looking at you to like in person to do stuff. And it's brought on a level of pressure that I wasn't really, expecting, I suppose. And not one that seems like I have to succeed or like I have to do a certain thing. But the thing that's been tricky for me is trying to navigate what happens when like I am learning this in real time right now. I don't have an answer for it. I haven't learned the lesson yet. This just sucks. There's no, like, I'm still in the Rocky cut scene where like, I don't know how this story turns out yet. And I also don't know what lesson I'm going to learn from it. And, you know, Brady said something one time too, because obviously he spends a lot of time sharing his thoughts in public. And he was like, dude, there's this thing about authenticity for people who are in leadership positions where people look to us not only for the good things and the advice and all of that, but they also look to you to be like, hey, are you also human? Is it also okay to fuck up? Is it also okay to go through hard times? It's like the hard thing about that, man, is like sometimes the most authentic thing and the times that you're struggling is to not show up at all. Because in real life, what you actually want to be doing is going through that 6 months of isolation like you did. It's going through the thing and not sharing about it. It's not like the most authentic thing is to actually just not show up at all.
Yeah.
And so that's something that's been really, that I've actively been trying to learn lately is like, as I continue to, you know, step into a position where I hope to have the kind of impact and the kind of reach that you've had at some point, is where is that balance between learning in public and bringing other people along for the ride and being like, I don't know, guys, versus only sharing what you feel is helpful or what you feel is insightful or kind of checks that mentorship box.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm really good at like, cause I'm doing, you know, that's the other thing I love about the gym is we don't just train together. We're all doing life together, you know? So I don't broadcast it in front of the class, you know, like, hey, I'm going through this, you know, but I do have enough interpersonal relationships, you know, to where I do get to share some of what I am going through and stuff like that. So like everything else, it's a balance. Sometimes, you know, the people need you to show up and just say the right things. And, be the person that you're supposed to be to them. And then sometimes they need to see the humility, that you're struggling and you're having a hard day. So yeah, once again, there's not a right way or a wrong way. I would say, I think it's the balance, of what's appropriate in the moment. Sometimes what's appropriate or what I need to do, and sometimes it's what the person that I'm interacting with needs to hear,
right.
And same thing. I trust that my intuition that I'm going to read the room, so to speak, and give the feedback that's necessary at the right amount of time, at the right time. And I might mess up too, but even that, like, same thing, being in control of everything and doing everything right. I could get up and share something, a struggle or something with the entire class and have an absolute, like, no one needed to hear that. It's completely negative, but maybe a parent at the front door needed to hear it. You know what I mean? So, like, I just have this overwhelming thing that, like, whatever it is, someone needed to hear it. It happened for a reason, so as far as, like, doing it at a calculated thing or whatever, it's not that. I think it's just, like I said, I try and have self-awareness. I try and do things intentionally, but a lot of times, like, I don't know why they happen either.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But somebody in that room, I would say some of the most profound mentor moments I've had is me talking to a group of people right here in front of me and having somebody 4 years later that was sitting behind me come up and tell me, I changed their life that day because they overheard me saying some shit. And then because that's happened enough, I actually use that tactic to where when you tell somebody directly, like, hey, I have this hard truth for you and you need to hear it. Defenses go up, walls go up. There's all these reasons why I feel attacked, whatever, and they can't hear you. And so I have gone over and created situations intentionally with people here knowing full well they're listening to every word and they need to hear it, but they can't hear it directly, and so, yeah, I guess it's a mix of sometimes it is very intentional and sometimes it's the techniques I developed for it were unintentional and now I use them intentionally because I've learned through leadership that's a beneficial way for some people to get the news.
Yeah, man, what I mean? God, there's layers to that game, man.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah, that's insane. So some of the things that's been cool about being a part of the gym for the last couple of years is it's like to see the evolution of it and see the impact that you make across, like, all of the different facets of it, whether it's the fight team guys or kids class or getting new locations and all of the stuff. As you talk about being in a place right now where you're readjusting some things and realigning and trying to, like, figure out what's next, I'd imagine that intuition thing is, like, creeping back and, like, retuning and doing all of that. What feels like the things right now, kind of going back to that whole move forward theme that we started with, what feels like the things that your intuition is, like, screaming at you to move forward with right now?
A lot of it was, I feel like I almost held back successes because of what it means as far as, like, time commitments, travel. And I let go of that, like, about a year ago. And really, instead of hoping someone would call and give my pros a chance, I started intentionally making that shit happen for them. And we've traveled a ton this year. We've signed super major contracts, been in huge fights all over. And that was something I always wanted to do, but because of my personal life, I didn't, because I wanted that as a personal success in business, but my home life, it was a huge detriment, every time, like, hey, we have somebody that got, we get to go do this amazing thing we've been striving for. It took away from something else, you know, and for now that's a different circumstance or whatever. And I kind of did it preemptively because same thing, I needed to be true to myself, even if there was a negative thing. Like, I can't just fail intentionally and say I'm okay. So I started doing it and then dealing with the consequences, you know, and I think anything that you care enough about, there's a consequence for every decision, action that you do, you know, and if you want it bad enough, don't let the consequence stop you. Break the fucking rules and go do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Which regret do you want to live with?
Take the punishment you get, but don't not go do the thing that feeds your soul. So for me, that's something big, is like reaching out, being uncomfortable, not knowing the promoters, not being able to control everything, and trusting that we're good enough to be there, and then putting ourselves in those situations. And now after doing it, especially after, you know, Willis's Florida trip, the amount of feedback, interaction, attention that brought us with like the higher ups there, the who's who, you know, and like, it was cool. Like Willis had an amazing fight. He fought Perdomo. He took him to the third round, this unbeatable guy that's never been out of the first round. We made him bleed. Mm-hmm. We threw him on the canvas multiple times. We made him a human. You know what I mean? And then there's Austin Trout, like WBC world champion, like, you know, I think undefeated in the BKFC, just won the main event that night to fight for the lightweight title. And we had a table at the nightclub with, you know, Shaq at the DJ and all this here. And he had the exact same one on the opposite side of the club. And every one of the champions, the commentators, everybody, they rolled into our booth. And that's where everybody partied and stayed. And it was a great sense of validation, just being recognized for what we do. You know, like I get good feedback all the time. Like, man, you guys are exceptional. We work with teams from all over the world all the time. You guys are a cut above you, you know, and you never know. You hope you are or whatever. But in that moment, like that was, for me, I always knew I was capable of it. Like I fit in those circles. I am that caliber of a coach. My fighters are that caliber of fighters. So that's kind of the direction I want to go. You know, we can strive for the biggest things, like, and that's like all these guys, these pros I've been working with, Corey, since he was like 18 years old out of high school, you know, and I don't even know how many fights, 25, 30 fights, you know, MMA, boxing, bare knuckle this, bare knuckle that, but they're paving the way for these next generations of people, you know, that are they saw somebody do it when they started, it was happening. Yeah. And then they know it's possible. And that's all we've really lacked here, because same thing, I liked protecting my fighters and making sure that, you know, I got them good fights and I had influence and I could do something about things, you know. So I did hold us back maybe a little bit to keep my home life good, you know, and be present and be here. So yeah, moving forward, like I've got guys right now that could like go kill it in the UFC. I mean, we're right here just sitting, but you're good at so many other things, you know, Maurice, but I'm not going to name everybody off, but the talent's here, the coaching abilities here, you know, and if it's not us, we have the next layers above us, you know, with Felipe and Tyler and stuff like that are out at every show all over the world doing the things. You know, Felipe just won double gold again at the Nogi Pans, you know, or Nogi Worlds. We are surrounded with and I don't know, a lot of them, like when Felipe comes here, when I just brought him, he thanked me like 30 times during the seminar. Like, thank you for letting me be part of what you built here. Like, I think this should be reversed, you know, like maybe I should have brought you down, you know. I'm like, no. Like it's important, you know, that you're here and you're very valued here. But just everyone I've ever brought here has that, you know, like there's something special here. It's amazing, you know, and same thing, just layers and layers of all of these people pouring this self-belief into me and giving, how can we make it better? Like, I don't know how you did what you did. Yeah. You know? So, but that's moving forward. I think, yeah, it's going to open up way bigger. You know, I'm not worried about failure because, you know, fighting, 50% of everyone that gets in a fight loses, you know, like you can't I mean, you get a draw once in a while and like skew the statistic, but so it's not about that same thing. It's not the goal. It's nice to win. It's nice to have momentum. It's nice to get bigger paydays every time. But the fact that you're out doing it, striving for it, and all, you know, the camps we have with Willis, we grew and got so close this camp. Him and Drew did, me and Corey did. You know, there's community things that are rallying around us because of it. Those are the things that long-term are going to benefit us. and make our lives really good and enrich the community, you know, and then we get to go get in fights with undefeated Cubans, you know, right. And set ourselves up to bypass the top 16 heavyweights in the world because they were too scared to take that chance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So once again, it's the journey. It's not the destination. And then as far as the gym, like, I'm confident enough in my skills and my ability and my leadership, both in business and in the arts or whatever. I can go into any room anywhere in the world and I'm competent to be there. My jiu-jitsu's credible, you know, my teaching style is credible. My students are credible. And that's something, you know, we just signed our 8th affiliate, you know, like, so that's something in the back of my head, and it would probably be bigger than this, but I want an affiliate in all 50 states. Mm-hmm. And it's not financial. It's not anything. I want everywhere to have the benefit of the community that I built here. And then I want our community, obviously, to grow. All of those people are going to enrich us in ways we're not even aware that exist, you know, whether it's opportunities to travel, train in different environments, or maybe some little kid out on a ranch in Sydney or Miles City or Glasgow or Sheridan, Wyoming or Red Lodge, like, has a dream like I did. And now there's somebody that's built the infrastructure to make it happen. And they can train at the home gym until they're ready to come to headquarters. And then they can go to the UFC, they can go to 1FC, they can become a bare knuckle fighter, they can live their dreams, you know? And then anywhere you go, you know, hey, I'm going to Connecticut. Like, cool, man. Like, I got a gym there. Hey, man, I'm going to, you know, Alabama. Like, I got a gym there. You should stop by, you know? So, and like I said, that's not even like a business plan. That's a community plan. I want to spread a really wide net. I want to share our mentality and what we've created here with as many people as I can, because I know the value and the benefit of it.
Absolutely. We've talked quite a bit about, again, you, like, the way that you've been able to show up for other people in this one. It's been a really cool conversation because I think that, you know, and I'll link it in the show notes on the Owner's Journal podcast that we did before. We got a lot of, like, your backstory and, like, how you've kind of become this person. I'm curious though, since we've talked so much about the ways that you've been able to show up for other people and kind of guide them into continuing to move forward and show up for themselves and different things like that. Now that we kind of know what that looks like for the gym, what does that look like for you as a person? And, like, getting back to that point for yourself, what seems like the biggest things that you've got on your to-do list for you in this season?
Well, first of all, this season, like, I'm going to get super jacked this winter again. Just I got to defend my ADCC title again next summer. So I have to do the building now to do the lean in the summer. And that's something, just a really personal goal and something I really enjoy doing, because, you know, you got to be really regimented. It's hard for me to gain the weight and do the things, but I love leading by example of striving and doing something that's very difficult, you know, and then the feedback that I get, you know, from accomplishing those things, like, feels really good. So I'm going to do that. You know, my time that I have to myself now, you know, has changed with having the kids part of the time and not, and having a giant empty house half the time. So I've really gone back, like, pretty feverishly, like, pouring into myself. You know, I got these the apps where it consolidates a book into 20 minutes, and I listen to like 3 or 4 of those every morning. Like, I feel like I'm doing another build up personally to, like, you know, I believe we're input output machines, and I'm inputting things at a feverishly pace again, A, to, like, find direction, B, to grow, you know, and then just anytime you go seek out information for yourself intentionally, it tends to be the thing that you need when somebody comes to you for help, like, right away.
Yeah, man.
You know?
Yeah.
And like I said, I have this overwhelming feeling of, like, something really big, and I don't have a timeline on it. I don't know if it's 20 years from now or if this is the year it happens, but I feel the need to really prepare for it and, like, fill myself up and become, you know, even so much more, because I know I've been holding myself back. I know I've I've settled myself for the comfort of others for a long time. And it bothers me that I've become, somewhat complacent. I still feel like I probably study more and like grow more than a lot of people, but not at the rate I'm actually capable of, so.
It's that thing that you said, like, but you'll know.
Yeah, but I'll know.
Yeah.
And I do know, and that's why, don't talk about it, be about it, just go do it. And I am doing that right now. And it feels really good. I mean, I could feel the drain I had on me and how pulling I was in different directions, all out of love and, like for all the right reasons, you could tell yourself, but end of the day, like I'd say the most profound thing, that, and this is a little off topic, but when I show up for my kids, I feel like I'm really stoic and I can, whatever it is, like I'm a strong man, I can handle it, and we can be sword fighting, having a blast, like playing, I'm laughing, and he's just like, it's okay that you're sad, Dad. I'm like, what the fuck, So, but just stuff like that, like you think you're getting away with it. You think you're good enough. You think, like, hey, I can handle this and take all this on and like still be okay to be here for this little human or anybody, and that's what I love about kids. They don't have an agenda and they just tell you what they actually see and feel, and like, so I learn so much from him, and that's something that really sparked me to like, don't be half of what you're supposed to be, like be all of it. Like let them actually see that part. Don't tell them you used to be, don't tell them that you are now and not believe it yourself. You know what I mean? So all of those things where I feel I have holes or I've let things slip or I, quit growing, like I'm done with that. And I'm very excited because I know when I go through these phases, like, I level up quite a bit. And when I level up, has a residual effect of all the people that I'm in contact with, and it's a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And that ripple effect, it can change, so much more than just our little community here. And that's same thing. Like now that is what feeds me and motivates me and makes me want to do it. Like it is selfish, it is personal, and it's for, those very personal reasons of that's what invoked it again. But I'm excited because when I'm in that state, like I said, everybody layers away from me benefit from it. Whether they know how it got there or not. Like I have this, I don't know, it's hard to put it in words because I don't really know how to explain like my spirituality or whatever. And so I just keep saying the word energy, but I have this unbelievable amount of like endless energy I create. And when I give it, it gets stronger. When I hold it back, it gets weaker.
Man.
So.
Yeah, 100%. No, and it's, I think that that we only get back from the world what we put into it. And that's been the biggest journey that I've been on this year is I was giving the world the wrong things and wasn't even asking the right questions in the first place. But what I've found is everything that we've talked about being honest and about listening to the calling and listening to the intuition and all of those things, I think what it really builds up to is like, if you give 100% honest effort and honest truth into the world, I think it's the only way that you get 100% back, because as soon as you get down to 80%, you can only, your relationship is 80% as good as it can be. And your impact is 80% as good. And like, it's like you were saying about the sword fight, man. It's like, you put on this thing like it's 100%, but people feel it. People feel when it's not that thing. And so you're getting half of them too. And I think that's been one of the biggest things for me this year is just like, it is, I think that in some ways attaching to the success metrics or attaching to the expectations that other people give you for like, here's what being cool looks like. Here's what success looks like. Here's what whatever. That takes down percentage points every time that you say yes to that thing, instead of saying yes to what cool looks like for you, success looks like for you, happiness looks like for you. And so I think that's, man, it hits me when I walk into a room and somebody recognizes me for the podcast versus my business. Like if somebody's like, oh, that's cool, man. You built a team. You've got 7 people. You're 26. Wow. You do all of that's like in one ear out the other. I don't give a fuck, man. Like, because it's not my thing. It's not what I measure my success on, or like what I measure my life or my joy on. But as soon as I walk into a room with somebody, if they listen to this and they're like, fuck, man, that thing that Will said about like following your intuition, it impacted me, this, and this. Dude, that stuff to me is like, if I could make a living on that, I would. I could not imagine any cooler thing to give to the world. And so I think it's been a personal challenge for me figuring out where to have those honest conversations, and then when to look at myself and be like, yeah, dude, but now you're also the one that has to like, you know, you have the honesty now. Now you're the one that has to act on it. Like you get to make the changes in this relationship now.
Yep.
But yeah, man, it's really cool to hear. It's inspiring to me too, to hear that like, and we said it before, that our mentors and the people we look up to in our lives, that they like face the same thing. But I think it's that moving forward thing that you talked about at the beginning. And that's what separates somebody who's worthy for being a mentor and somebody who's just like, not somebody who you might want to mold things after.
Yeah. Yeah. Be wary of positions and titles, and yeah, watch those people even closer, because they're the dangerous ones.
Absolutely.
And they're rarely in the the business of benefiting you. They're in the business of benefiting themselves. You know, I was listening to a thing this morning when I was getting ready, and it was talking about, I don't know, he was Secretary of State or something. He went on a trip, and, you know, when he landed at the airport, there was a car waiting for him. When he got in the car, there's, you know, snacks and a drink waiting for him. He got to the hotel. There was another person waiting for him. He didn't have to check in. They already checked in, and they walked him to his room. When he woke up in the morning, he walked out of his room, and somebody was standing there and handed him a cup of coffee, not in a, you know, in a plastic cup or whatever. It was in a really nice mug. And then he, you know, gets in a private car and goes to the venue, and he gets there, and there's another person there that, is there anything you need? They escort him. They show him where to go. And then he gets out of office, and he goes on a very similar trip to do the exact same kind of thing, you know, give a speech and like do all of this. And he flew coach. And when he got there, no one helped him with his bags, and he had to get a taxi. And when he went to the hotel, he had to check himself in and carry his bags up. And when he wanted coffee in the morning, he went down to the front desk, and they're like, yeah, there's some right over there. You know, he's drinking out of a paper cup or whatever. And then he had to take another cab to the thing. He got to the venue. Nobody knew who he was or how to get there. And they're like, well, can I get a cup of coffee? Like, yeah, there's a vending machine right over there, you know? And what the moral of it was all of those things were given to his position, you know, not to him as a man, as a person. It was his position was awarded all of those things. And when he didn't have the title, none of that came with it. He's still the same guy that held that title. He probably has more importance because it's later, and he has more experience and has more value and more insight because he's not held back by a position and its parameters. He can share more, you know. And the whole thing is like, whatever position you find yourself in, there's going to be benefits, and you should enjoy them, but you should also be grateful for them. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, like, you're still just the person. If you strip away the thing, if you're not the famous musician, if you're not a head of state, if you're not whatever it is, you know, like, it just matters how you treat people and how you respect things, I guess, is the end result of it. But I like that because I could take advantage of a lot of things and just like expect them in my position. And I refuse to do that. I don't think I'm any more special than anybody else. You know, I really don't. And I don't want to be. A lot of times when people do those things for me, it kind of makes me uncomfortable. Like, I appreciate it and I graciously accept it and you know, say thank you. And then I automatically do something back for them. to tell them like, no, like we're no different. I've just been doing it longer, or whatever. And I'm in this position, but you could be in that position. And that's what I always try and like relate with people. Like, I'm here now, but you might be the guy that takes my place. You might be here next. Like, you got to think of yourself in the same light instead of, this is this unachievable thing where only you can get, and that's where I think a lot of, why I have the respect I do and stuff like that, because I don't expect to be treated different. I don't expect to be held up in a higher esteem or whatever. And I am, and it's nice, but then I return it and try and encourage them to strive to be in the same position so they get those things, but also be appreciative of them when it is happening,
Yeah, it's funny. There's that idea that most of the people that you hold on a pedestal are not special. They're not any different than you. They're just somebody who chose one thing that called to them, and they pursued that over everything else and let everything else shed away. Kobe got real good at basketball. Politicians got real good at politics. Like, these titles and these positions that they've raised to are because there was somebody just like you who took everything else that was holding them back and just left it on the sidelines. Like, not just this one thing, man. Yeah. Dude, this was an awesome conversation. I look up to you like crazy. You've helped me with lots of hard moments in my life, but also like helped me enjoy some of the really good ones, which has been cool. And I think that it's very exciting for me having been able to have conversations like this in different phases of your life, because it's very exciting to hear that what's on your heart right now is focusing on you and being that source of energy that has that ripple effect, because I've never got to experience the unfiltered, unadulterated version of you just like being 100% yourself. So I'm so excited to see what comes of that in the gym and of all of us who get to benefit from all the things that you put out too. So both selfishly and for the community and for all the other ripple effects, I'm very excited for this chapter.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm very excited for it too. I'm excited for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really am.
All righty. Well, thank you for listening, everybody. Be where your feet are, and we love you. Adios.